Hi all. Right, today's progress. I'm trying to keep the camera a little bit steadier. Rocker mounts now on. Rocker or shock absorber base mount now in place. Finally decided on the actual offset between the shock absorber and here. That was all dependent. I wanted the shock absorber, the rocker and the push rod all to be in line. In the end it made sense just to get the bulkhead offset to the ball joint and just keep that single offset all the way through, which worked out at centre of the ball joint. I think it was 79 millimeters from the bulkhead. So I kept it that one plane all the way across the car, so it should theoretically be able to run a ruler. Yeah, run a ruler from the bottom ball joint up through the push rod, through the rocker arm, down the shock, up the shock, and vice versa the other side. There'll be minor fluctuations in it this way and that way, a tiny amount, but the shock absorber was designed to take a fair old angle, but to be honest it's going to be like minuscule. So there's the bottom mount. Was going to do a horizontal plate from here back to there, and then realised as I was cutting out the first two plates that it would be better off actually to build two plates here at the angle that the shock's going to be, or roughly, to aid taking any twist or anything else, any other motion out, and obviously putting some load back into the bulkhead, not just down the base where the 1.5-inch tube meets the bulkhead, actually delivering up here as well, taking a bit of a bending moment out of this. Like again before, the centre line of the shock through, this is obviously a shock absorber, no Clive, that looks like a 3/4 inch box, yeah right, okay, it's a shock. Through the centre of that tube, centre of here, it's roughly in line. So it puts less of a bending moment or twisting moment on that bottom tube. Putting it directly into it, it would have been slightly nicer to have these further apart, but the more further apart they are from the centre of here, the more of a bending load or more of a twisting load I'm going to put into that tube, and I didn't want that, so I ran the two shock absorbers as physically close as I can. I think there's only about, from the chassis centre line, there's only 3 millimeters to that shock, so where the two ends of the shock are, there's only going to be 6 millimeters apart. But the closer together, then the better they are for this. This edge here is only going to be probably about 9 millimeters from the base of the shock. As the Nitron will give you a selectable amount of end pieces and depths. The one I selected here is, I think it's plus 15 millimeters over standard. You can have whatever you want, but if you choose stuff they got on the shelf, obviously it's cheaper than having a bespoke end made. But I must admit, I did chicken out at the eyelet on the top end of the shock. I've gone for a adjustable one that basically has a threaded union on the end. So there's going to be multiple things to adjust, but like as I said before, this bar here is cut at, or drilled centre to centre at 377 millimeters, which is the theoretical fully open length of the shock absorber. And you can see how close I'm running it. You can see the gap there between this tube and there is only about 2 to 3 millimeters. Now that's fine if that's what the shock absorber does, and the likelihood of the front end completely unloading, I don't think it's going to be so much of a problem. It's more again when it hits the ground again, for whatever reason you've managed to take off on the front, which is extremely alarming in the first place, but whatever. I just don't want this to hit that. Just don't think it'd be a good idea. So I've got 7mm adjustable. I should be able to adjust the shock absorber. 377 it's set at the moment. I should be able to adjust it from 380 down to 372. So I should be able to back that off another 3 or 4 millimeters. Being a bit of a worrywart, I know, but I just want to make damn sure that we don't get any binding of any of the rod ends, any of the points of the suspension. Make sure everything is where it should be and shouldn't come into contact with stuff that it's not designed to be. So we're both rockers in place, and one more payment off the credit card, and I shall be hammering another probably about £1,300 on that for the shock absorbers. Order them from the UK. But yeah, quite happy with the base mount now. Did think about putting a captivated nut on the back side, but I've actually gone against that. I can actually get a 3/8 drive ratchet down here with a nut on, hold it in, and then do it from the front without too much trouble. Obviously, a reasonable amount of room behind the shock, but not a massive amount. So I didn't want to put a captivated nut there if I could get away with it. All the welding and stuff I've got to do in here yet. The last thing I wanted to do was put a captivated nut to make it even more awkward to weld. Plus, then you run the problem with maybe getting some splatter in the nut, and as much as a captivated nut would be nice, I don't want to do it at this point. So so there should be just enough room. Well, actually, there's probably about 6 or 7 millimeters clearance to drop the ratchet down there with a 19mm socket on it. Come on, focus. There we go. So we're in, we're good, we're clear. Like I said, this side's all built up now. So unfortunately I accidentally had a small problem with my 5/8 tack. It fell on the floor, and being brittle it just snapped it off. So the turnbuckle, which is going to be inserted into there like that one, unfortunately I can't make the last piece because I busted. Typical. So I've got another one on order. That's about it, I suppose, for the moment. Job for tomorrow. Should be able to get 3 or 4 hours of it tomorrow. But yeah, another bit of 3mm plate. Probably get over with 2, but to be honest, I haven't got it. Oh, I have got some 2. Scratch that. 2mm plate, because I've got some 2mm plate horizontally through here, then I'll go vertically down between the two, and then I'll marry it with another plate here. Just make it nice and square. I don't have to have a fancy nice piece on the front, because basically we've got to run the push rod mount off of here, so it'll be flat and then 90 degree down to the bottom, and then another flat plate there. I'll leave the flat plate at the bottom off. I'll make it, but I won't tack it on. So when all these are tigged up, we can tig all the inside and the back, and then tig that plate on last. Make sure we get a good joint where the rods meet the bottom board rope. So I can make those two, and then make the stand-up parts of the actual push rod. So yeah, it's going to be reasonably adjustable. So the push rod will be obviously adjustable. The spring platform will be adjustable. The top of the shock absorber will be adjustable. You can get the idea. You can pretty much dial in whatever you want. I was thinking the other day, actually, I don't quite know what the hell I was thinking a few weeks ago. I was trying to dial in what it would be if, say, you wanted to take this to a racetrack, and for whatever, you thought, well, let's dump it an inch. If you dump the car an inch, maybe say we fitted 25 or 30% stiffer springs. On the rear, we can just flip the. On the rear, I can just flip. On the rear, I can flip from yay position to yay position, and basically stiffen the rear suspension up. That's not a problem. On the front, due to height clearance, is basically from here to there. I was going to put a slightly taller here in 2 positions, but unfortunately there just isn't enough room in the top here, and I didn't want to raise this section of the bodywork. I want to try and keep it lower than normal. These at the moment are probably about 15mm away from the bodywork, and I might actually bring the bodywork down to them slightly. So on here you'd have to swap the springs out, put the car on jacks, pull these 2 top bolts, and then basically take the spring, one spring down, platform out, drop the spring, blah blah blah. But what the car characteristics happens if you drop the whole car an inch, and stiffen the car up so that it doesn't have as much overall movement. You could even throw a couple of more bump stops in just to make sure you weren't going to bottom the car out. Previously I thought, well, I can just lower the car on the spring platforms, and for whatever reason I had it in my head that I had to split the spring platforms, but I don't need to. What you can do, you can obviously just adjust it on the push rods to lower the car so that the shock absorber still stays where it was, and you just basically shorten the push rods, or if there isn't enough adjustment, we can basically swap the push rods out for a shorter push rod. Looking at the chassis dynamics, how much the roll centre moves, if you drop the car an inch, obviously you gain a little bit more. Static camber, and you gain accelerated camber. But if you're going to dump a car for a racetrack, you're going to probably stiffen the suspension up anyway. You're not going to gain a huge amount in bump because you're probably only going to gain another inch or so in wheel travel. So basically what I'm saying is we can shorten the push rods, stiffen the springs, shorten the push rods, drop the whole car an inch, and doing a quickie 2D drawing of the dynamic roll centers again, whereas they'll move full droop to full bump, when they'll move to 2 to 3 degrees of roll, probably no more than about 5 or 6 mil. If you drop the car an inch, you're probably only doubling that, so you're only probably going to roll center movement of no more than 15-20 mil, which to be honest is still way better. So that it is possible to drop the whole car an inch, fit stiffer springs to stop, obviously you're losing wheel arch clearance, so you have to stiffen the car up to stop the wheels fouling the wheel arches. But it is possible to drop the car down to a 75 mil ground clearance at the front, which obviously will make the rear diffuser more effective. If you do that with a more effective rear diffuser, we will probably have to fit canard fins on the front to counter the fact that now the downforces wanted to push the back end of the car down. Just things thrown out there. Anyway, that's progress of today. Hopefully should have the shock absorbers with springs here, I'm guessing by sometime September. When, I don't know. It all depends on when they make them up. They're pretty busy at the moment, so rack, steering rack I suppose is the next thing. Steering rack mounts, I know the height, I know the length of all the bits and pieces, so yeah, more progress. Right, I'm going to stop whinging on. Speak to you soon.